My sister can't have children, but my brother-in-law is desperate to have a family with our DNA. Now she wants me to be a surrogate, but since I said no, my brother-in-law is stalking me until he can impregnate me. I am 30 and have an identical twin sister. We'll call her Stacy for the sake of the story. Our mother unfortunately died during childbirth. We were raised by our father. Stacy has been married to Jeff for 8 years, and I am in a relationship with Mike for 3 years now. One thing I've always about my sister is that she wanted to be a mom. Even when we were kids, she was always thinking about wedding ideas, nursery themes, baby names, etc. I was always more focused on books than having fun. I am a flight attendant now, and I'm also trying to become a published author. My sister has never really worked. When we finished high school, we went straight to college. She met her boyfriend at college and, when she graduated, became a housewife. Until she became his wife, I have known for a while that my sister was trying to get pregnant. Unsuccessfully, she has had 1 miscarriage and has not been able to get pregnant again, despite spending thousands of dollars on IVF and just about everything they could try, because she wanted to experience pregnancy. After 5 years without success, they have started discussing other options. My sister is not interested in adoption and is very determined to have a child that has both of their DNA. Her words, not mine. About 3 weeks ago, she came to my house, and we were hanging out like we always do, just talking and watching Modern Family. She told me that she had a serious question and needed to ask me while she still had the nerve. It scared me, but she asked if I could be her surrogate. I froze for a second and asked what she meant. She told me I knew what a surrogate was. She wanted me to be her surrogate. Expressed that she knew I wasn't interested in having children. This could definitely be due to the way we were born into the world. But I'll be honest and say, I have never found the idea of having children in any way. I told her that I would have no problem donating as many of my eggs to her, however many she needed. She could have them all, but I could not carry her child. When she heard this, she became so angry. Her face was so red, and she was just screaming about how jealous and hateful I am, because this is a small task. I didn't want to point it out to her, but she has always talked about having more than 4 children. Would she expect me to do this every time? I don't know, I'm starting to feel so bad. She finally told me that if I couldn't do this one thing for her, then how could I ever call myself her sister? She broke a picture of us, of me sitting on my coat, and stormed out. Since then she's only sent me pictures of herself, diaries from when we were kids, and all her vision boards, saying that I'm stopping her from starting a family for no reason, and that I should think about the bigger picture. My boyfriend refuses to give me advice, saying that it's my sister, and he doesn't feel comfortable trying to sway me in direction because it's such a sensitive subject. Honestly, this is the longest I've ever gone without communicating with my sister, and I am seriously on the verge of giving up. Am I wrong for not wanting to be a surrogate for my sister? Edith, I read all the comments, and I want to say thank you so much. I feel so much better knowing that I'm not the villain, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. I tend to just do it. This disconnect with my sister causes me immense discomfort in ways I cannot verbally express. But I see 2 common questions that I want to answer, and hopefully get different answers. Money. My mother did not die of natural causes. It was due to medical error. My father sued the hospital, and my sister and I have substantial trust from that money. So money is not an issue for either of us. And her husband is also financially well off. So not having to work for 9 months or pay for the egg collection process, etc., is not an issue at all. It's more about her stubbornness for the baby to share our DNA and for one of us to carry it, because we're identical. If she can't have a baby, how can I? Her inability to have a child is due to a car accident we were in, which is also the cause of the miscarriage she experienced, because she was in the front seat with our father. She bore the brunt of the accident. Unfortunately, her body is now incapable of carrying a child, and she has had extreme complications with egg retrieval. I'm not sure about the details of how that went wrong, just that it is not working and is not an option. It is difficult to get her to discuss the non-viable options so that I can have a better understanding. Doctors will not allow me to be a surrogate as I will not have a child. Thank you so much for this information. We are having a family dinner this coming Thursday because we always watch football with our fathers and significant others. I'm sure the subject will come up if she decides to attend. I hope I can bring it up with her. So I promised an update tomorrow, but my dad ended up calling me while I was hanging out and told me to come over for dinner last night so we could talk. I want to start by saying thank you so much for all the comments and advice. Some of you have not only been jerks to me, but also to my sister and my boyfriend. I still appreciate the help. I didn't even ask what it was about when my dad called. I thought he was talking to Stacy, based on the comments. I know you won't be happy, but I talked to my boyfriend about where his head was at, if I was going to go ahead with it. He told me that he loved me and would support me through anything and everything, but he would not stand by and watch while my sister made me feel like rubbish if I was doing this under duress. He said he couldn't support me, which I completely understand. Honestly, when we went over to my dad's for dinner, my sister and brother-in-law were already there. I spoke to both of them as we walked in, but only my sister answered. My brother-in-law gave me the most disgusting look and greeted my friend. Only my father sat us down at the table, and there was just this awkward silence and tension. I could cut with a butcher's knife. He said, "Somebody talk. We need to sort this out before the game tomorrow night. My dad loves football, lol." I started the conversation by telling her that I had done some research, and in addition to my initial concerns, I now had a few more, and needed to know exactly what she wanted from me. I started by asking her what being a surrogate would be like. She just said, "Do you agree?" When I told her no, I just needed more details, and she broke down and cried. I asked her if she knew that a doctor would rule me out as a surrogate, given that I've never successfully carried a child to term. She said she knew that, and that she would just send my brother-in-law and me to a center where we could pretend to be a couple. And once I'd been successfully inseminated, I would request a transfer from that provider to her option for continued care. My father intervened and said that asking me to do something that a doctor wouldn't sign off on was a terrible way to start motherhood. You could tell he wasn't on board with any of this, but he didn't want to take sides. He asked her why she was so uncomfortable with the idea of a surrogate. And that's when my brother-in-law jumped in and said, "Don't try to berate my wife with these stupid questions. Talk to your selfish bitch of a daughter about why she can't help her sister." This immediately changed the mood. My friend started shouting at him for calling me a bitch. My dad told him he could not disrespect his daughters in his house. Everything just went up in flames. My sister cried and asked me to do her this favor, practically begging. I told her that if I could change places with her, I would, but I was scared and I didn't want to die. I think it was the first time I had ever said that out loud. Ever. We couldn't work anything out after that. My father asked my brother-in-law to leave because he couldn't control himself and refused to apologize. As he was leaving, my sister told him she would meet him in the car and asked me to come and talk to her on the veranda, just the two of us. I went out with her, and she apologized for her husband calling me a bitch. She said they were just on edge, and it's been stressful. I told her not to apologize for him, and that we'd work something out. She asked me to reconsider and just kept saying, "You don't get it. You don't understand." When I pressed her for more, she admitted that her in-laws had made a cruel joke at one of their dinners recently about how she was a murderer, referring to the child she had lost. She said she asked him why he didn't stand up for her when they made the joke, and he said because it was true. He made some strange comments about her not being able to make up for it, and how he was so excited to see what their child would look like. He said he would never be able to look inside a child and see parts of both of them, so she came up with the idea of me carrying the baby, and he was super on board. But the way she said it, it was like he planted the seed, and she seems to think it was her idea. She said she hadn't seen him like that, excited since the baby, and she just needed to get everything back to normal. I tried to explain to her that nothing was ever be normal again, and that what she was trying to do was wrong, but he just started honking the horn. I rushed her to the car, and she said she'd call me later. I feel like I could lose my sister, but I am not even willing to donate my eggs to have a baby with her. Eggs for her to have a baby with him. I took your advice and read up on the egg donation process, and wow, not at all what I expected. I want her to divorce him. I will never help her have a baby with this man. I really think I'd rather be a surrogate for her than a single mother. Before I'd ever allow her to have his child with me, or my ex to have a child with him. I had no idea that his family would put so much guilt on her. I literally jump at my phone every time it rings, because I know she's going to call soon, and I'm going to have to tell her. I'm scared of losing my sister, but I can't and won't. Probably won't update anymore. But thanks for all the help. I know I said I wouldn't update anymore, but so much has happened, and I can't explain the strange relief I feel writing my madness on this website. Many of you have suggested that I should be more careful around my brother-in-law for fear that he might become violent. I did not listen, and now I am kicking myself for not doing so. I thought I knew my family well enough, and this was just a bump in the road. How extremely naive of me. My sister phoned me back the next morning, the day after he called me a bitch. But unfortunately, I missed the call because I was in the shower. When I called back, there was no answer. It was a normal day, until we got to my dad's house. It was football night. Kickoff had just started when my sister came in. She asked my dad if he could come out and talk to her husband. My dad said no because the game was on, and he could either wait until the commercial break or come in and apologize like a man in front of everyone who saw him disrespect me. She took a breath and told him how he hadn't been quite fair. She tried to bring up an earlier situation. She tried to draw comparisons, and this made my father furious. He told her that he hadn't raised her to, made her small and weak for a man, and said that whatever he had done to make her thought that was the way to have a healthy relationship. He was sorry he had failed her as a father. Her eyes started to water, and she just stormed out without saying another word. When I walked to my car after the game, I had 2 flat tires and a broken passenger window. My dad put 2 donuts on the car, used his truck to tow the car into his garage, and told me to take his other car. He said he would get the car fixed, and I could come and get it whenever I had time, but not to worry. He asked if I wanted to stay the night, but I refused. I called my sister. She didn't answer, so I texted her and said a lot of things, but to keep some of it private, I said I can't believe we're here. Loving a man should never mean and destroy your family in the process. She responded by saying, "That's the problem, my family is already destroyed, and you're not willing to help me put it back together." I then tried to call her again, but still no answer. On the way home, I noticed a car following me. When I got a better look, I realized it was my sister's mother-in-law's car. I only noticed it because she has a very distinctive bumper sticker that I have literally never seen anywhere else. I freaked out and rang my boyfriend and asked him to meet me at my house. As I pulled into my driveway, the car pulled up behind me. Luckily, my boyfriend was turning down the road. By the time my brother-in-law got out of his mother's car and tried to walk towards me, my boyfriend ran out of the car and yelled at him. Jeff immediately started shouting. I just wanted to apologize. He and my boyfriend got into a bit of a fight before that. Jeff got back into his mom's car and drove off. He hit my friend's car in the process, but it didn't seem to be intentional, and his car is still drivable. After that, I obviously didn't feel too comfortable at home anymore. I packed a bag and went to my boyfriend's, and haven't really been home since. My dad put a camera and floodlights on the back door and driveway, but I'm honestly not too sure I want to go back. Although I know I will have to eventually, yeah. I contacted my sister and no, she did not answer or respond. It all happened that night and the following day. After that, I began to notice a red car following me one day, and a black one the next. I know you might say I was scared and just imagining it, but I would notice them. I started to drive to the police station, on my father's instructions, only for them to turn off. As soon as the station was in sight, on Sunday, I went to brunch with some friends to celebrate their upcoming wedding and bridal shower details. The waiter came over and told me that my husband had been honest and that it was an emergency. I thought it was my boyfriend and that she was just mistaken. I went up to find my brother-in-law. I approached him, tried not to make a scene. I spoke quietly and asked him to leave, or I would call my father. He told me that things had just gone too far, and that he just wanted to apologize. We were sort of in the doorway and it was just awkward, with people coming in and saying, "Excuse me," so I suggested we step outside to get out of the way. When we went outside, he apologized for calling me a bitch and said he didn't mean it. He said I didn't understand how hard it was for him, and I cut him off. He said that how hard it was for him didn't matter to me, because his behavior was becoming too chaotic and abusive, not just to my sister but to everyone. He told me he understood how I felt, but asked me to reconsider. He grabbed my stomach, and I immediately stepped back and told him he had to go. I said we could arrange a time to talk to my father, but his stalking me was a problem, and we could talk later, or I would call the police. He grabbed a handful of my hair as I walked back into the restaurant and said, "Don't you walk away from me." I honestly don't remember much after that. Everything just happened really fast, and some bystanders got involved. In the end, he fled before the police could arrive. A report was filed 2 days ago. He tried to get into my airport terminal, telling them he was my husband and there was an emergency. Same BS he pulled at the restaurant. He was arrested when he refused to leave. He was, of course, bailed out and has since taken to sending me most of his text messages. My sister left after the show he put on at my work. She is currently staying with our father, but she has asked me to drop the charges. She makes excuses for him and has been very adamant that he didn't hit me in the restaurant. Despite my scalp literally bleeding from how hard he pulled my hair, and the little scratches I have on my neck and arms, from him continuing to aggressively when strangers tried to help. Some of the texts are of him telling me the horrible things he's going to do to me, like how he's going to get me pregnant, and that I'll be stuck with him for the rest of my life. How he knows I'm the woman who will give him a son, and if I don't make it easy for him, we'll both die before he gives up. Just really worrying things. I blocked his number. So this is all coming from random texting apps? I told the police, and they said there's no way to prove it's actually him. So until he responds, there is nothing that can be done. I am literally scared all the time. My boyfriend drives me to work, and on top of the normal precautions I take, I'm doing even more. I can hardly sleep now. I send a screenshot to my sister every time her husband texts me, and she has stopped interacting with me. My dad has asked me to stop doing this because it's getting her down, but I told him I couldn't even believe it. She has defended him during some of this, and she needs to see the harassment her husband is doing. I feel defeated. I don't even know if my sister and I can come back from this. I feel like I've basically taken over my boyfriend's life, and I feel terrible about it. He hasn't said anything, but his regular visits to the gym are sometimes cut short. When he has to pick me up or drop me off when I have to go to work or somewhere else because I am. Other times because I'm afraid, being away for a day because of flights. I know this allows him to do more of his routine, but now we're basically forced to live together, which I enjoy, but I'm not sure he does. We had an argument the other day about the air conditioning. I feel like my life is slowly turning into madness and I can't breathe. I don't really know where to start. But at the moment my brother-in-law is stalking me. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of why, but he wants me to have his baby. Unfortunately, the story just keeps getting messier and messier. I had his number blocked, but on the advice of others, I unblocked him because of the police saying that the messages coming in from unknown numbers could not be traced back to him. He has sent me some messages from his real number saying that we need to talk and come to an agreement. I, of course, did not engage. The nasty messages from strange numbers have continued. I cannot confirm it, but I always feel that someone is following me. Getting my coffee from Dunkin'. I feel like the blue car is following me. I've come to the point where I've actually taken a leave of absence from work. I have completely left my flat and moved in with my now fiancé. I bumped into him a few days ago while I was shopping. He came up behind me and rubbed a hand on my back. When I jumped and screamed and tried to get his attention, he pretended to be confused. He threw up his hands and said, "I'm sorry. I'll leave you alone. I apologize." He seemed so sincere that the witnesses basically accepted his apology on my behalf and sent him on his way. I literally couldn't even speak. I could barely breathe or even form words outside of someone helping me. I felt so helpless. The next day, my flat was broken into and completely vandalized. The next day, I got a message from a strange number saying, "It's only going to get worse." I am terrified. My sister is staying with my dad at the moment, and she's sure it's not her husband. She said things have gone too far, and he's been in contact with her about getting a clear head and get out of the state, because he feels like he's unhinged and needs to see her. I don't even know how to convince her that he's lying. The police seem to refuse to help, because he hasn't done anything wrong. I feel like I have to die or have him hurt me badly for something to get anything done. Please help me. I am currently in the USA, so please, if you know of any laws that can help or urge the police to be more helpful, I would appreciate it. Cannot sleep, and I'm getting to the point where I just do not want to leave my flat. Please help me. Fourth update 4 days later. This has been absolutely insane. Reddit has a place in my heart forever. I'll make this as short as possible. My boyfriend realized I was looking at apartments. I definitely wanted to rent a flat temporarily, like an idiot, and asked me why. I told him that I felt like he wanted his space back for himself, and he proposed the next moment. I'm literally engaged. Now I feel much better about taking over his place. LOL. I posted on Advice Reddit and explained that my brother-in-law was escalating. He approached me in a supermarket. Unfortunately, I did not do well standing up for myself. Not my best moment. He broke into my house, did some damage to my bedroom, and broke a few things in my kitchen. He knows I love mugs and espresso machines. No, I wasn't there, and yes, there were cameras installed. Afterwards, I took a leave of absence from work and basically holed up in my fiancé's apartment. My sister had been ignoring my texts and not engaged with me until I got a random phone call. When I answered, she was on the phone crying. I asked her what was wrong. I thought something had happened to our dad. She explained that she had been following her husband and knew he was following me. She said she told me because she went to the police, and they explained that they would send someone to talk to me. We were on the phone for 5 hours. She explained that after the hair-pulling incident, her light bulb went off, and she went into investigative mode. She said it had got to the point where she was concerned for my safety, so she decided to go to the police. She apologized for putting me under so much pressure. She said that although she blamed it on her husband, a tiny part of her was actually shocked. I said no. She explained that the DNA aspect wasn't important to her. It was my brother-in-law who insisted on it, and she just wanted her family to be whole. She will be staying with me temporarily at my house until the divorce is final and the dust has settled. I'm sure he won't make the divorce easy, but they have a prenuptial agreement, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Side note, I found out after my father slipped and told me that my sister actually had proof that her husband had broken into my house. She obviously held on to the information because she had to make the right decision. He said that when she told him, he told her. She didn't have a choice and made him leave immediately. She didn't seem to put up much of a fight. My dad said he felt like she just needed someone to tell her so that she would understand. But I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that. I'm glad she made the right decision in the end. The police came to my fiancé's flat the next day. They took my statement and told me that they wanted an agent to follow me for a day in an unmarked car. And if he followed me, he would be arrested. They didn't tell me which car was following me, but they said it would happen immediately. So if I felt I was being followed, I should not panic. Basically, he was arrested literally within 2 hours of me leaving my fiancé's apartment. We were on a date, and when we went to the third place, he was stopped and arrested. I drank more margaritas than I should have that night. The detective told me I would be getting a call from the DA's office, which I assume will be tomorrow. Honestly, the way this has all gone, I doubt they'll charge him with much, but I hope that since they have his phone, there is physical proof that he sent me the text, which will add to his punishment. I have my first flight back to work this week, and I'm so looking forward to getting back to my regular routine. The football matches today were amazing, and I got to watch them with my sister, my dad, and my fiancé.